There's something in the world now called radical self-love. This is not, there's another thing called body positivity and sort of identity positivity. This is not what radical self-love is. My sense of it, and this is, I know there are terms and people use these terms and are officially utilizing this. And I think this actually goes along with the person who coined it. My sense of it is when we can truly see our divine nature and love that, we are radically loving ourselves. This is not about human, personal sense. This is about seeing who you are. And the practice of Christian Science is that place where we are affirming the truth and denying the error. That's the practice. It's like saying, this is who I am. It's identifying ourselves rightly. So where does the rubber hit the road on that? The very first thing we can do is notice what is the negative self-talk going on in our head. And I know this sounds like, oh, yeah, I heard this before, know this. But truly, are we being disciplined in catching those negative things that we have admitted to ourselves for a long time that have nothing to do with us? It has everything to do with the way the world has indoctrinated us to think. It's not our thinking. And we are not guilty. You are not to blame that there's all this negative self-talk going on. It's not your fault. That's what the world has shoved down our throats since the very moment we were conscious of knowing who we were. It's not your fault. So take the pressure off from that standpoint. No fault, no blame, no guilt, no shame. Take that off. There is no shame that you are in the habit of thinking negatively about yourself. It's no wonder. If if you've been blasted with a megaphone your whole life that you're less than, you start kind of being convinced that, well, maybe I'm crazy to think that I'm okay. I must be. I mean, they're saying it to me all the time. Well, there must be something wrong with me. It's not your fault. So we have the opportunity to, one, recognize that that thing that's been blasted at us and is continuing to be blasted at us, let's just be clear, is not our thinking. So recognize it as, you can call it the enemy, you can call it mortal mind, you can call it aggressive mental suggestion. I don't really care what you name it. It's not your thinking. God is communicating to you in every moment via the Christ, the true idea, the divine message, constantly. And we've talked about it a lot in the last couple of weeks. It's coming through a lot recently. But the very practical nature of that is that you recognize the negative as not yours. It's not your thinking. It's not your identity. And you take the next step, which is recognize what is you. Recognize who you are. See the divinity within you. See the divinity that is you, more accurately. The Bible says, set your sights on the realities of heaven. Well, what are the realities of heaven about you? Like, that seems audacious to even think in those terms. You know what? The realities of heaven are expressed as you individually. You are a reflection of the realities of heaven. If you doubt that, recognize that that doubt is not coming from you. That doubt is coming from aggressive mental suggestion. You don't have to agree with the doubt. You don't, not only do you not have to, I would suggest you don't. Don't agree with the doubt. Say, no, I don't doubt that I am a child of God. I don't doubt that. I claim it. I claim it powerfully. I am that I am. I am as God is. I am at one with the divine. That is my being. That is my nature. That is my identity. That is what I see. That is what I claim. And I am not going to buy into or listen to the lies that are being screamed at me by the world. I don't buy it. I'm not taking it in. I'm not opening the door and saying, come on in, let's have a party. Let's trash me. Let's tell me how horrible I am and how many mistakes I've made and what a horrible person I am. And, oh, I wasn't kind. You know what? Focus on the good and the good will expand. Focus on the bad and the bad will expand. You pick. You focus on all the negative stuff that's being thrown at you and you welcome it in and you start holding that as your concept of yourself. Guess what? That's what your experience is going to be. Basic science. There's no mystery in that. So use that fact to your advantage because God is always communicating to you who you are. Above all, clothe yourselves in love or with love. Clothe yourselves with love. Oh, so when I'm getting dressed in the morning, just to take it literally for a moment, do I like what I see in the mirror or do I trash what I see in the mirror? Let's get down to brass tacks. When I walk naked in front of the mirror from the shower to the closet, am I going, ooh, fabulous, love that? Or am I going, oh God, avert the eyes? Like what is your concept of yourself? Love the expression of you. Love every element of you. There's this wonderful experience I had with an African woman when I was traveling in Africa a little bit, doing some work there. And I was in my 20s. It was like I had interesting body image issues going on. And I wasn't really liking myself very much. And I was like working out. And even though the electricity would go out like 80% of the day, I had my little tape recorder with batteries. I was sure to bring my batteries so I could do my little tape recorder, like cassette tape. This is how old it was. And do my little 5-0 workout, my little aerobics workout, so I could stay in shape and have my body look good, right? That was my concept of what I needed to do. And this woman was strong and big and had big thighs and big arms and would carry stuff. And we got into this conversation. She said, oh, you must love your body. You must love your body. These legs, I love these legs. These legs get me from here to there. These arms, these are strong arms. They're big arms. These legs, they are big legs. She loved the bigness of her body. She loved the strength of her body. She saw it as qualities of God. She did not see it as some negative thing because it didn't compare to what the world has shown us is the perfect body. BS. Cry BS on that stuff. You are uniquely you. Love you where you are. It doesn't mean love you once you get to the place that looks like the world is saying you should look like. It means love you where you are. I was in a conversation with somebody yesterday, and people have been commenting, you've lost all this weight and you look so much younger, and what's going on with you? And he said, you know, honestly, I haven't done anything different but change my attitude. I've done nothing different. I haven't thought about what I've eaten. I haven't thought about my exercise. I haven't thought about anything. I just feel more alive and more engaged and more enthralled with life. I feel more, he was just like more in his life. He went through a period where his spouse had passed on and he was depressed and he thought he might end things and decided, you know what? He was at that juncture. Am I going to live? Am I going to stay or am I going to go? He decided to stay. He had a lot more to do. And from that moment forward, everything shifted about the way he saw himself. It had nothing to do with how he saw his body or what age he thought he was. He just was expressing life more from that point on, committed to it. And that's the thing that I noticed about what he was saying. He does something called a commitment ritual, but he made an utter commitment to himself and expressing his life. That this was the life that he was in, and he was going to live it to the fullest. And as a result of that, all of the what looks like physical, five sensory 3D stuff, it all shifts to align with consciousness. It's not the other way around. The body is in mind. Mind is not in the body. The body is in mind. So let's hold the body in mind. Let's hold our concept of ourself in divine mind, not in mortal mind. Two very different pictures. We know that. We know that from experience. You guys are not, you've been around the block a few times. You've done this before, I can tell. You have. Christian Science practice is the appearing of truth and the disappearing of error. And that's actually a line from Bicknell Young. Christian Science practice is the appearing of truth, capital T, and the disappearing of error. So how is truth appearing in consciousness for you? Are you seeing more of the truth of your being? Where the Bible says, let the message about Christ in all its richness fill your lives. Let's plug in what Mrs. Eddy says the Christ is. Let the spiritual or true idea of God in all its richness fill our lives. Well, the spiritual and true idea of God also means the spiritual and true idea of you. Let the spiritual and true idea of you in all its richness fill your life. It's very simple. This is not confusing, but are we doing it? Are we embracing this and committing to it and not letting the negative self-talk chatter that like, K self-talk, K negative self-talk, chattering in our head all the time, like top 40. What's the top 40 of your negative self-talk? You know, if you take that list of 100, on the left, you're doing the true idea of you. On the right, you're doing the false idea. It's like, what does the negative self-talk? Get it out and write it down and be done with it. Put it off to the side and say, I see you. You are not me. I recognize that you are mortal mind, that you are aggressive mental suggestion, and you have no power to impress me. It has no power. Call it out. When you deny it, you are denying its power. You are denying its authority. You are denying its existence. Is it coming up? Sure, it's coming up and it's going to keep coming up. So don't be surprised at it. It's like everyone goes, oh, well, once I heal it, then it's gone. It's like, no, it's going to keep coming up. And don't be like, okay, so what? I keep getting junk mail. Okay, I'm not dismayed by it. I don't care. It's a little annoying sometimes, but you move on. Deny that it has any power over you. If you let it annoy you, it just got power over you. It has no power over you unless you give it power, unless you get annoyed, unless you get into a battle with it. So don't. Let the message about Christ, the divine idea, the divine influence, the true idea of you, of God, i.e. you are the reflection of God. If you know who God is, you know who you are. You are at one with God. There's no separation. Be able, get to that place in you where you are willing to claim it. You know who God is. This community, you guys all know who God is. You have lots of stuff to read and dive into to know God. In knowing God, you know your true self. Claim it. Don't short yourself and buy into the lie and say, well, I'm not there yet. BS. Like I just about like stomped my foot on the ground on that one. Like BS. Stand up to mortal mind and say, no, that is not me. I am the image and idea, the reflection of God, the true idea. I and my Father are one. Claim it. Do not let down on that. Mrs. Eddy says, entirely separate from the belief and dream of material living is the life divine. Revealing spiritual understanding and the consciousness of man's dominion over the whole earth. your consciousness of your dominion over every ounce of self-talk, every whisper of negative self-talk, every whisper of the world telling you you're less than. You have dominion over that because of your consciousness of your oneness with God. That's what gives you the dominion. Not human will, not determination. No. Put on the whole armor of God. Put on the whole armor of God, and you are defended against the devil, that you are defended against the enemy. You are shielded from the attacks of error of every sort, to use a phrase from Mrs. Eddy. Keep your mind so filled with truth and love that nothing else can enter. She tells us, plain and simple. Are you doing it? Are you giving yourself the break? Or you're holding yourself less than, holding yourself back, holding yourself as, well, I don't know. I don't know if I can claim that about me. Mrs. Eddy says, a spiritual idea has not a single element of error. You are a spiritual idea. And this truth removes properly whatever is offensive. Well, what the world is saying about you is offensive. See it as offensive. And the truth of you removes that very handedly. Many of you may know Lona Ingwerson's healing of being bitten by a scorpion in her sleep. And that line was one of the lines that helped her see her healing. See her healing that already was there. That helped her see her healing. She thought, well, this certainly is offensive, that my whole head is swollen and the cross and crown around my neck is about to choke me because everything is so swollen from all the whatever. The lie that a God's creature biting me could have any ill effect on another God's creature? No, that's not accurate. The law of God governs all and holds everything in perfect harmony. So any sense that there's something out of whack, out of balance, a body that's not functioning properly, that's a lie. That's an absolute and utter lie. Don't buy it. Don't pay good money for it. Good time, good effort, sense of yourself. That's the money we're talking about here. Don't give it the time of day. Or, well, I don't know. I mean, I could make a Christian Science joke there and go, well, yeah, give it the time of day because that's mortal limits. So give it its mortal limits. But I won't go there. I just did. Put on, therefore, the elect of God, holy and beloved, bowels of mercies, kindness, humbleness of mind, meekness, long-suffering. Like, are you doing that for yourself? Are you doing that for yourself? Like, pause. Are you ascribing to yourself as a child of God all the goodness of God? There is none good but the Father. Yeah, you're the reflection of God. So no, you're not calling yourself good as a personality, personal sense, false ego separate from. Of course not. You are recognizing the good of God that is reflected as you. And you're not being duped by the world into thinking less than that. When you walk by that mirror, you love your body. You love the expression of God in front of you being reflected back at you. Every ounce of it. And only then will you start to see it align with the true reflection. If you keep hating what you're seeing, you're buying into the world's belief. Don't do yourself that disservice. Love who you are now. Look through the illusion of material sense and love who you are. Spiritual idea. What you're looking at is solid spirit. You're not looking at matter. There is no matter. You're looking at consciousness reflected. What are you holding in thought? What is being held in thought? Is what's being held in thought the mortal view of you? Or is what's being held in thought the spiritual view of you? It comes down to a very simple choice. What are you holding onto as the reality of you? Having no other gods, turning to no other but the one perfect mind to guide him. Man is the likeness of God, pure and eternal. Well, let's put this in first person, shall we? Have no other gods. Turn to no other but the one perfect mind to guide you. When you do that, you are the likeness of God, pure and eternal. When you have no other mind and you turn to none other but the perfect mind to guide you, you are the likeness of God, pure and eternal. And you have that mind which is also in Christ. Put it, when you read these words, when you read these passages, put it in terms of yourself and put yourself right into it so that you're not saying, it's not an intellectual exercise and you're going, oh yeah, that's a great concept over there. I wish I yeah, that's good. I like that. And you embrace it intellectually, but you're not letting it be who you are. That step of claiming it as you is the all-important step. It's not this intellectual thing that you like that's over there that someday you'll get to when you're good enough. No. Now is the accepted time. Now is the day of salvation. This moment, there's only now. What are you waiting for? Stop waiting. No waiting. Those that be planted in the house of the Lord shall flourish in the courts of our God. Are you planting yourself in the house of the Lord? Well, what does that mean to be planted in the house of the Lord? Are you planting yourself in the consciousness of good that is your identity and growing there? Or are you planting yourself in the house of mortal mind, world thought, all the belief and BS, and are you growing there? And then really sad with the result. You're a big weed. Oh, you look like a big weed. You're not a big weed. You see the appearance of a big weed because that's what you're buying into. Don't buy into it. Don't buy into it. Nope. Drop it. You know those of you who are new may not know my drop it story. It's like when the dog has the bone or the stick that you really do want to throw the stick for the dog and the dog will not let go of the stick. And he comes up to you with the stick and it's like, drop it, drop it. And he's like, but I love my stick. I love my stick. I want my stick. Drop it. Because we get so accustomed to that mortal sense of ourselves that we love that. So even though we're in a battle with it and we hate it and we have all because that's the life we know. This is the stick I know. I don't want to go with stick. I want my stick. Like drop it. Drop it. And then I can throw it far away and you'll never find it. Thank you. And then Mrs. Eddy has this wonderful passage. This is a longer passage and I won't include it in the quotes, but do you not hear of from all mankind of the imperfect model? You know, this whole passage, you guys know it well. The world is holding it before your gaze continually. Media, everything. It's holding before your every picture, everything. It's holding before your gaze continually. The result is that you're liable to liable to follow those lower patterns, limit your life work, follow those lower patterns, limit your life work because you've been told you're less than and this is all you can do. And that's the limit. You can't go farther than that. Glass ceiling. A lot of women, a lot of people of color, a lot of communities have been marginalized, queer community, marginalized communities. Women, mostly women here, we've been marginalized by society. If you don't think you have, just look at the patriarchy that has governed for so long. Yes. Well, are we going to let that limit us? Absolutely not, because we know Father, Mother, God is the higher authority. There is no false patriarchy. Patriarchy, if you look at the actual definition, has nothing to do with male, female. It has to do with what is that governing thing what is the governing system that you are aligning with? And if the governing system in thought is mortal mind, false patriarchy, being governed by, anyway, I could go on, but I won't. The result is that you are liable to follow those lower patterns, limit your life work, and adopt into your experience the angular outline and deformity of matter models. She has such poetry in her writing, and it is so accurate. So to remedy this, she tells us exactly what to do. We must first turn our gaze in the right direction. Oh yeah, way back to where we started. You see mortal mind for what it is. You see the voice in your head as not yours. And you turn away. Talk to the hand, mortal mind. Like, seriously, talk to the hand. You got to get a little attitudinal. Like, get a little up in its face. Say, no, talk to the hand. I am not listening to you. Sorry, not listening. You must first turn your gaze in the right direction and then walk that way. Oh yeah, that simple step. It's a two-part equation. Turn your gaze in the right direction and then walk that way. What does that look like for you? It means declaring who you are and not adopting the negative self-talk as your voice in your head. It means filling your thought with the truth of your being, not the falsity, the bullshit, all this mortal mind stuff. It sounds so simple, doesn't it? It sounds like, well, that's an easy equation. I can do that. It takes discipline. It takes alertness. It takes presence of mind, presence of thought and action. It takes being in the moment and not being distracted by all the doing. It means sometimes sitting in stillness and quieting that voice in your head that is a constant rumble, because we've had a lot of practice letting it go. Goes and goes and goes and goes, and we entertain it all the time. We've had a lot of practice entertaining that voice as our voice. We need to be just as practiced at turning our gaze in the right direction and then walking that way. We must form perfect models in thought and look at them continually. She tells us the antidote, and this is even before social media. This is back in the 1800s. There's so much in the industrial age that has happened, we all know, and how fast it's going, that has gone in the opposite direction. We must first turn our gaze in that direction and then walk that way. We must hold perfect models in thought and look at them continually, or we will never carve them out in grand and noble lives. She tells us exactly what to do. We can spend our days reading, going over scriptural text and spiritual ideas and reading and reading and reading and thinking that we're doing a really good job, and then walk away from that and, oh man, 2 seconds later, we're buying into the negative stuff. It takes discipline. It takes a desire, where the discipline comes out of the desire. If you have a desire for this, then you will do it. That's the fact. Just dive into the desire that you do want to see yourself accurately. If you don't have the desire to see yourself accurately, I'll just ask you the question, what's it costing you to not have that true view of yourself? For many of us, it costs us health. For many of us, it costs us relationships. For many of us, it costs us a sense of fulfillment and comfort. There's a big cost for not having this desire. And that, I would think, the pain of that probably moves you towards the desire pretty quickly, I would think. Okay, let's bring it in. Okay. I go into these moments of silence and I think, oh, I want to share that other quote. And then I stop. I stop myself and I go, wait, listen to what's going on, really hear. And what comes through is always the dearest. It's like, and I don't know who this is for. And I just know that I hear you guys. That little tiny flicker of a desire. It just like makes me want to weep. That little tiny flame. Like, dare I have the desire to see myself better? Nurture that. Like, don't give up on yourself. Be your best advocate, because God is on your side and everyone here is on your side. That desire to see, I wish I could see myself. Great, commit to it. Commit to that little, like, nurturing that little tiny flame, because eventually it's going to be a huge bonfire. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. So there's hope. Have the faith to know that good always outshines evil. Truth always wins. And the appearance of truth and the disappearance of error is the practice of Christian Science. So as truth is appearing in your thought, the truth of you is appearing in your thought, know that the erroneous nature, the erroneous idea, the false suggestion is disappearing. It is getting less. Keep grabbing on to that little flame of truth. Don't give up. No matter what the suggestion is, no matter what form it's coming up in, personality, health, conditions, whatever it is, doesn't really matter. It's still mortal mind. Okay. All right, tomorrow's roundtable. Yay. So bring something to the potluck. Bring a win, bring a share, bring a healing, bring whatever, a question, bringing a question too. Questions, I love questions because it gets everybody thinking. Questions are good. Learning how to ask questions is actually a really powerful tool. We all know that, but I always like saying it. All right, love you guys. Go love yourselves. Go, for heaven, go love yourselves. Dare I say, for F's sake? Yes, I do. Just go love yourselves. Damn it. Okay. Have a wonderful day. And those of you on the end of your day, I hope your day has been blessed, and know that this is the beginning of your next day, even though it starts in the afternoon. There is no time. All right. Love you guys. See you tomorrow.